Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase or pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing the Patek Philippe Nautilus Chronograph. This is the 5980 1R-001, 40.5 millimeters in red gold. The watch is 12.5 millimeters thick. If we're measuring just the case, lug to lug, it is 45.3 millimeters, and if we're measuring this outer link, which is rigid and can't be compressed downward, the total distance across the wrist is a somewhat more substantial 51 millimeters, and I'd say it feels very much that size. Putting the watch on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see that it is a Nautilus to be sure, but it is more substantial than the 5712 or the 5711. In look and feel, it's a lot more like the 5726 annual calendar, and that's a good comparable. Dimensionally, it's just about identical to the 5990, the travel time version of this watch, and truth be told, they're almost identical in every measurable dimension. So if you've worn the 5990, you know exactly how this feels. I'd recommend it for a wrist no smaller than 14 centimeters circumference, but because of the sloped case flank, it will slide quite easily underneath a dress cuff. Although it's chunky, it's not thick in an absolute sense. Taking a look at the bracelet, you can see that first it tapers down from the lugs, and as with every Nautilus on a bracelet since the first Nautilus in 1976, the integration of lug and bracelet profile was the design vision of creator Gerald Genta, and we have a bracelet that has polished intermediates and satin finished primaries. You can see there's a little polished bevel that runs down the flanks of the links on both sides. The primaries are satinated on their top, and you can see that there's a little bit of channeling between the links on the bottom to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. You can see that this is something Patek Philippe now does on its bracelets. It uses pins and sleeves rather than screws to fix removable links, and while it is a little bit more troublesome, you need to size it with a block and punch. It is quite a secure system, so if nothing else, you know that the pins and sleeves will not back out and loosen your bracelet. We do have ceramic pin snaps in here. It's a double deployant, twin folding clasp. These little ceramic pin snaps are designed so that over time, the clamshell cannot wear down the retention mechanism, so it will retain a crisp snick and snap long into the future. We have a clamshell lock with the Calatrava cross. That's what closes and cinches the clasp down. Pop it open again. We're going to go back to the case, take a quick look. 120 meters water resistant in spite of the pusher adjuster for the date as well as the chronograph triggers. It's just as water resistant as a standard 5711. Now you can see why the Nautilus costs more than the Aquanaut. Yes, part of it's branding, but a lot of it is down to the complexity of the case. There are just more parts and more fine details, such as the break between the satin flank, the polished bevel, and the satin hoods. We have a lot of detailing in this complex case, and of course the most famous part of it would be the rounded polygon of the bezel. And unlike the Royal Oak, which has the rounded polygon outboard and then a round inner bezel, crystal, and dial, this watch actually has the same shape for the outer bezel, the inner bezel, the crystal, and then the dial itself. The watch has a gray metallic dial, and it features a mono counter, so there is a chronograph minutes register that is coaxial with a chronograph hours register. We have rose gold hands and indices, and they are true 18 karat gold, so they won't tarnish or oxidize over time. Let's do a quick lume shot here. You can see it is fairly well lumed, and it is a flyback chronograph, which means you don't actually need to stop it to reset it. Just press the reset trigger and you're back. This is useful if you want to time two events that occur in rapid succession. It's also useful because you'll note the watch doesn't actually have a running seconds display, so a lot of people run the chronograph continuously on the 5980, and that's fine. Because of the vertical clutch, there's no danger in leaving the chronograph running full time. What I advise you to do is set the time exactly and then use the flyback. If you're going to run the seconds hand as constant second, use the flyback as a zero reset synchronization system. As I mentioned, there is a little pusher adjuster to move the date because this movement is descended from the 5960 annual calendar, and the pusher adjusters are how you adjust the date in the 5960. Of course, the watch features a horizontal set of striations, as the Nautilus has since 1976, and then little polished chapter rings for the registers on the mono counter. Inside the case, we have caliber 28-520, automatic winding with unidirectional action. It uses ceramic rotor bearings for efficiency. It pivots on 35 joules. It has a free-sprung and durable Gyromax-style balance, which is adjusted in 6 positions. It has an anti-magnetic silicone hairspring. It features the column wheel for crisp actuation of the chronograph. And then it features a vertical clutch for smooth engagement. And the vertical clutch means that not only can you leave the chronograph running, but there's no jump or stagger to the seconds hand when you start it up. It beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and Patek guarantees this watch to run no worse than -3 + 2 seconds per day from the factory. This watch is also rife with fine finish, both on the outside as well as the inside. Though this is a mass-produced Patek caliber, Patek has a generally higher standard of finish for its series production movements than you'll find at, for example, JLC, Zenith, or AP. So this is all fine stuff, and the detailing you get is world-class. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this 55-hour power reserve Flyback sports chronograph.